Hey everyone, Earl here, and the 365 challenge where I've committed to shoot a bloody video every day for 365 days, and it is day 9. But it's about time I came up with some interesting content for business owners and people in pretty much any industry in regards to, I guess, what model do you want to go after. And I had a really interesting conversation with another business owner this morning where he kind of talked about what your target market was and who you're trying to serve and how to build, like, a 10 million, $100 million company. And one of those discussions turned up to kind of a really old post that a VC put out. Maybe this is like 2015, 2016, maybe even earlier. And they talked about like what type of clientele and what kind of model do you want to serve. Now he actually expanded it beyond these 3 things, but these are kind of the 3 things I wanted to stay on, and I replaced the word elephant with the word whale because that's kind of the the words we use in my other office. And so there's mice, there's deer, and there's whales. So if you want a business model that you only want a few clients, right? And for example, like just a handful of clients at the $100,000 or $1 million mark, and those are all whales. So it's good because of a couple of things. Number one, you catch a whale, you only have to catch one once, and you're eaten for the next 3, 5, 10 years or whatever else. But now you have to deal with other things when you catch that whale. You have to deal with like refrigeration problems. How are you going to solve to keep this thing alive or fresh long enough so that the meat lasts long enough to span that lifespan? But if you go on the other complete opposite side and talk about mice, mice are small or they're fast. You just need to catch a whole bunch to be able to eat. But there's resilience in that model, right? On the whale model, if you lose one client, you've literally lost a good chunk of the company. Whereas on the mouse model, if you lose one, it's not the end of the world, right? The only difference is being able to catch all these things in between. And then there's that middle ground of deer, right? You still have to deal with some of the issues about, for example, in the meat sense, like refrigeration, how long can you keep these things up and going? But it's not as big as a whale, right? So you don't have to worry about it for that long. You just have to figure out from point A to point B. So yeah, it's kind of deciding which business model you want to go after. Now, the funny thing is I'm actually doing all of these models, just depending on the company that I'm representing at the time, right? So in one company, all these guys do is whale hunt all day long, right? Instead of closing companies, they close countries, which is interesting, right? Because you land one of those and there's a bajillion dollars that you never have to worry about ever again, as long as you keep the customer happy, right? Again, in the whale model, you lose that customer, you're in trouble. On the mouse model, where I'm starting a new mentorship program and building out this this kind of meetup group stuff and all these kind of little things, with the mouse model, again, you have to hunt a whole bunch of them. Now, in that case, from a marketing standpoint, your cost per acquisition cannot be that high, right? So, in terms of the cost per acquisition for mice, you can't spend a whole lot of money catching a mouse, because if you do, then you're going to end up backwards and not making anything. And then there's that middle ground where there's deer. So right now, I'm kind of in between all of them. So I got one company that hunts mice, and one company that hunts whales, and another company that hunts deer. So you got to kind of pick who your target market is, pick who you want to be able to serve, and just build everything accordingly, right? One of my other mentors, he only hunts like straight up basically whales for his major money, and he makes a lot of money hunting deer. But I don't agree necessarily with that kind of model. Not that there's anything wrong with what he's doing, it's just it's not my cup of tea. So that being said, pick your model, pick your target, and pick one at a time until you've mastered it, right? Way back in the day, I made my first million in mice, right? Or even smaller than that. So, but there's the sheer number of transactions that you have to do gets a little unwieldy, right? So from a scaling perspective, it's very hard to scale the mouse thing because your acquisition rates have to be so low. Whereas scaling a deer is actually a little easier. But what I'll do is I will find that article. I'm going to go dig it up on the internet. I know it still exists somewhere. I'll put the link in the description in the video, and you guys can have some further reading there. But that's kind of it. So having that discussion this morning kind of lit up the old brainwaves and go, oh yeah, I remember that discussion about literally flies, mice, deer, or rabbits, deer, and then like elephants. But anyway, this is kind of the reinforcement that you should hunt something smaller, right? So in the other office, we talk about hunting fish before you try to eat whales. So because if you can hunt enough fish, you can keep eating forever, and that'll sustain you until you're able to go catch that whale. And that's it. That's the value add point for today, something that from my past that kind of brings back to the future again, and it's really neat and definitely something worth considering because you can only build marketing plans that hunt so many different things, right? If you try to hunt everything, you'll not catch anything, right? All right, thanks for watching.